This is For Home in Heaven, a podcast about living faithfully in the everyday with eternity in mind.
Hey guys, welcome back to For Home in Heaven. I'm Mary.
And I'm Noah.
And we are so excited about this episode today. It's actually one that we really feel like the Lord is calling us. I mean, obviously, He calls us to all these episodes, but this is one specifically that's really close to both of our hearts. And I think, I don't want to say, we're about to get really real and vulnerable, but we kind of are just a little bit. You know, we're all talking about today the concept that here on earth is just our temporary home, right? And our home in heaven is the ultimate dream for all of us. But in order to get there, we're going to have to be willing to sacrifice a lot here on earth for our earthly selves in order to get ourselves, get our family, our spouse, our children to heaven, because that's the ultimate goal for us.
Yeah, no, I think one kind of preface too is that a lot of this was kind of dreamed up on a car ride. We recently just visited some family up in Connecticut, and so with that, we had about 13 plus hours driving back. So we had a lot of time to just brainstorm and kind of talk through and pray through kind of some ideas that we had. So that should be the preface to all this. But hopefully it turns out to be something that all kind of at least resonates with you to one degree or another.
Yeah. But before we get started, I was telling Noah today, I said, listen, here's the deal. We got to do something kind of fun to start these episodes. Highs and lows, rosebuds, thorns, heck yes, heck no, whatever you want to call them. So I was like, all right, I'm going to pull out our handy friend, ChatGPT, right? To ask what are some good various ways to say that. So that goes along with our theme. So Chat, we came up with harvest and droughts. So we're going to do this weekly, or every time we come out with the podcast, we're going to share our harvest and our drought of the week, of time lately, whatever. So let's do our harvest first. Or do you want to do the drought first? The highs or the low?
You do the highs first.
All right. Do you want to go? Because I have one.
Sure.
Okay. You want me to go?
No, I'll go.
Okay. What's your harvest?
I think back to what I just said a second ago, visiting family. So we just came back, like I mentioned, from visiting family. And I think it's since moving away, it's always something that's really the kind of the cliche is absence makes the heart grow fonder. And so with that, it's always nice. Like every time we leave, it's just that much more like if you just feel a really great sense of longing and nostalgia, but also just the joy that we had. So I think since the last time we recorded, that's been kind of one of the biggest things that has been just a huge kind of uplifting for me. And so definitely really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I agree. That was good. Seeing family. My harvest is not as lighthearted or as of heartfelt as that, but my harvest is peanut butter cup ice cream is the best thing I've ever experienced lately, specifically the Great Value peanut butter cup ice cream. It's not crunchy. Well, it's crunchy because it has a lot of good peanut butter chocolate chip stuff in it, but it's not crunchy the fact that it's clean. It's not. It's $2.97 ice cream, but I can go nuts with that lately. So that's my harvest is peanut butter cup ice cream in a variety of brands.
Well, if I knew we were going like that, like superficial, I might have chosen something else.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be this.
I thought it was like this deep harvest.
No. I mean, sometimes it might be deep, but long story short of that, my harvest is peanut butter cup ice cream in all varieties. All right. How about your drought now? Do you have a drought of the last couple weeks, Noah?
Yes, I think calling back to a theme or a don't do this, listen to me, I've learned from this type of thing from the first episode was don't start 15 things at once, which to be fair, when you work multiple jobs and you have a homestead and you have kids is kind of like it's going to happen. But that said, definitely, I think lots of stuff going on at once, so a little bit overwhelming. But that said, I think it kind of helps you to kind of reset your priorities and kind of figure out what needs to get done. But that would be the drought. Again, I probably went way too deep with that one. I should have just said stub my toe.
Hey, you cut your finger a couple weeks ago.
I did cut my finger. That was
you could say that.
That was a drought, I suppose too. But
that's it, like a mini drought in the midst of the droughts.
Yeah, that was me rushing
like
to get one of the multiple
desert.
projects done. I also cut my finger open. So that was
one of the million things. He's had a crazy couple weeks. My drought would be honestly probably leaving Connecticut this last week. Like Noah said, distance makes the heart grow fonder. And I think, sorry, there's a fly in front of me. I definitely think that's true. When we left Connecticut almost 4 years ago, next month it'll be November it'll be 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like we needed a fresh start. We needed an adventure for our family. But every time we go back, probably once, maybe twice a year, every time we leave, it gets harder. My mother-in-law and I are just crying. Margot's crying, our oldest. Like, it's just the whole 9 yards. And then you feel like a horrible parent for a couple days because they're asking to go to Grammy Pepe's house, or even like when see my parents in Iowa, same thing. But yeah, no, leaving Connecticut was especially hard for me this time. I had such a good time with Noah and his family, and it was really tough to leave. So I would say that's my drought.
And so if that's the case, then maybe that's my new harvest. If we're being that high level superficial and we're keeping with the theme, it's kicking butt at ping pong. We played like 13 straight hours of ping pong up at my parents' house.
That's a big love up there.
Yes.
Everyone loves ping pong. So anyway, that was our harvest and drought. So now we're going to talk about what we're really all here to hear about is how Noah and I have made sacrifices within our marriage for our family in order to get each other to heaven and, I guess, live for the kingdom of God.
Yeah, I think kind of the core theme or thought that we want to kind of start this and kind of run all the way through is that we're building a life that isn't meant for comfort, or isn't shaped by comfort, but it's a calling. So it's not something that we're not put here to just figure out how we can relax more or have a more comfortable life. I think, obviously, as things come, like maybe you get a little extra money in a new job or whatever else, like you don't need to live in an impoverished life for any reason. But that said, I think there's a lot of things that you can do, and as we're going to discuss today, you can have kind of the comfortable choice, or you can have the the harder choice that I think is the more fruitful choice. And so with all that, I think this is kind of what we want to talk about today is really, okay, we're not called to be comfortable. We're called to kind of continue to strive towards heaven. And so that's kind of the theme and kind of central thought that we want to stick with today.
Right. And I think some things too, if you think really, I guess, baseline is some examples that we thought of ourselves was even like we had this lawnmower, this push lawnmower we bought when we were dirt broke when we first got married, right? Almost 6 years ago. And is it beautiful? No. Is it shiny? No. Is it funky in a gazillion and a half ways? Yes. But you know what? The thing still runs. And so I think it's, yeah, sure. Could we go out and buy a new lawnmower? Yeah. But do we really need to? No. So we're going to sacrifice living with something that's older, that still works, kind of sort of works, because it's just a mini sacrifice. Or even like those days, I know on the flip side of that, even on those days where we're having a crazy day, would it be so easy to go order pizza from down the road? Yes. But I know as like the homemaker, I am in charge of making sure our family gets a nourished meal. And so even when it's a little bit more hectic, it's going to be better off if I am willing to just make a, like a homemade meal or something that had like that's full of nourishment versus some pizza down the road. Like, yeah, it's a sacrifice, but to me, it's worth it knowing that I'm putting my family's health first, So just, you got to start small like that and then think about, okay, those are tiny ways that I've accomplished that. What's the next step up of being able to put these sacrifices on the table, I guess?
Another sacrifice is when your wife reads your little thing on the outline. That was my whole plan. So I don't know where I'm going. No, I'm just kidding. We've upgraded, by the way, or downgraded, whatever you want to call it. Before, you might have seen us looking at our phones. We don't have it scripted at all, but it's more just outlines, like make sure we hit the right points. And so we have an outline on paper now. And I was gonna hit the lawnmower one because that is no one in my domain. But no, I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like being in the military or anything like that, where there's things that come up every day. You blow a tire, you have some kind of thing that like you could do something a little bit easier, but you have to do it something somewhat harder. So like, I think even small sacrifices like, hey, I really want a cookie, but I'm gonna have a protein shake instead, like stuff like that. There's sacrifices that one makes you more comfortable, but one is better for you.
Right. One might serve you well in the moment, you think, but then be worse, further out, versus one might be a little bit more difficult in the moment. That said, though, the payoff of that is just way more positive than what that instant gratification moment is going to be for you.
And I think that happens kind of in every part of your life. So like I just mentioned, like the idea of doing it just from a physical perspective, I think is important because that personally helps you move forward. But also when you come into marriage, when you come into family, I think you're called that much more to do that. So obviously wedding vows, kind of cliche in a sense, but like the sickness and health, there's so many things that pop up when you're married where like I can remember Mary one time had neurovirus, and it was like the sickest I've ever seen any person. Like,
I've never been that sick in my freaking life.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone so sick. She didn't leave the room for like 5 days.
Literally, and I had it for like 10 or 12 days, the after effects. That was horrendous.
And I think we had 3 kids at the time.
We did, and nobody got sick because you were bleaching the heck out of the house. But it was you for like 10 days.
Yeah, so like
I was not involved for like 10 days.
it's like I think I took like again sacrifice because again
Oh
like
my
the
gosh.
perfect world would be like go fend for yourself, figure it out.
Yeah.
But again, it's like and it also kind of depends on your frame of reference. But that said, like I think yes, was it difficult? Sure, but also like okay, this is necessary. We needed to do it, but also at the end of the day, what can I do? Like I think that's the other thing with marriage is that again, like from the Bible, there's wives be subordinate to your husbands, but husbands love your wives, and so I think
Wait, let's do that again. Say that again a little bit slower because I love that.
so. It's
Wives submit to your
Oh my
husbands.
gosh, yeah, I can't.
Husbands love your wives. And there's so much into that. That's so good.
If I can't butcher, I won't say it again because I'm going to butcher it. But that said, I think what's important about that is again when Mary's going through a harder time. Like I think there's little even kind of sacrifice throughout the day. So like if I've had a long day at work, I come home. Obviously, the first thing I want to do is like sit down, just like completely decompress. And then people are like, "Oh, the car ride is decompression," but also it's like you have to deal with Charlotte traffic, which sucks. Coming back from work. Anyway, so last thing I want to do is deal with the kids because especially at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, it's like the witching hour is what we call it. They're miserable. But like again, like are there little things that I can do to like help to love Mary, but also support her? Because like on the flip side, she's also been around with the kids all day. And so there's like little things like how do you like put yourself out of your comfort zone? Like I keep going back to the whole idea of like having a cup of ice cream or a cookie versus like the protein shake. Like it's about putting yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit more for the betterment of not just you but for the other person. And also kind of back to the last episode, kind of offering that up as a sacrifice. So like it's a sacrifice, yes, but also like it's bettering you because you're kind of making a better choice and a selfless choice for someone else. It's helping show someone else that they're loved, but also it's kind of doing the right thing in the moment. And so I think that's something that's extremely important because again, it's very small. So like even if it's something as simple as two of the kids are screaming, like, okay, let's go take care of that first thing when I walk in, versus go sit down with Mary trying to handle it all kind of on her own. But again, very small thing in kind of the time. But that said, I think that over time starts to add up as you accumulate those like spouse to spouse, but also just it helps you to kind of build up a more tough and resilient kind of, or even just more caring and generous like philosophy and rule of thought and that kind of thing. So like that becomes more and more natural. And I think too, like it's little things like that that kind of help with just becoming a better man, better husband, better Christian. I think those are the kind of the starting
Having
points.
the self-discipline too.
Yeah, no,
To be like, I don't want to do that. And again, I'm not a man, but so correct me if I'm wrong. But, from what I've seen with Noah, like he and I will always say the first year of marriage, like it is for majority of people, was the hardest year of marriage, I would say. Well, maybe not. It might have been because we were both learning. We were both having to get to know how marriage worked and like how we should both act. I had to learn to really stand down. He had to learn how to stand up, like all these different things. Like we both had to really balance each other out. And I've learned that, and I'm sure so many of you know this, but women want to feel loved. Men want to feel respected. They're not going to feel respected if we don't respect them. Well, we're not going to respect them if we don't feel loved. So like what Noah's saying, like if he comes into work some days, most days, let's be honest, we have 4 out of under 5. And like I got supper cooking, I have kids screaming, I have a baby who wants to nurse, I have just everything is chaos. Yeah, sure, he could totally go retreat in the bedroom and watch like Instagram reels, or he could totally go look at his emails and pretend like nothing's going on. Well, then I'm going to feel ticked off because I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you sitting down? I'm in here. I've been here with the kids since 6 a.m. When you left, I'm immediately not feeling loved by him because he's not, doing that. And well, then if I get upset and I come to him and I'm like, what are you doing? And blah, blah, blah. Like I need help all day. He isn't very respectful. Of course he doesn't want to help me out. Well, I don't want to respect him because he's not loving me. So the whole cycle just goes and goes and goes. Again, are we perfect? No. There are times where I know that I've been so punchy and been like, Mary, literally, he's like, you got to relax. Like he needs, time to decompress. Just like I know there's times that he's probably been like, okay, Noah, seriously, like I need it. Like, yes, let's stop, But I think that's the biggest thing is that women will not respect men or we won't respect our husbands if we don't feel loved, and they won't love us unless they feel respected. But it's just the biggest core of all of that is being humble enough and self-sacrificial enough to be able to literally put your own comforts 100% aside for the other person. And I promise you, it pays off for both people. Like you just end up having a better dynamic between the two of you. And your kids can feel that too and see it too.
Well, I think too, like the whole idea, like I was struggling to find the word that I was wanting to use, and I think it's making it habitual. So I think that's the big thing with this whole thing is like, how do you make it habitual? So Luke 16:10 is whoever can be trusted with faithful trusted with little can be trusted with much. And so that's kind of something that's growing up that was kind of used a lot around like telling the truth. But I think that can be applied to a whole lot of areas of life where if you can do small sacrifices, the more and more that becomes habitual, making a bigger and greater sacrifice, like because they will come up, is going to make it be a lot easier to do because it's habit now. It's you're habitually making it so that not only are you thinking of yourself, you're thinking of other people, whether it be your wife, your kid, or spouse, I guess, depending on which way you're looking at it, but your spouse, your kids, those around you, so your neighbors, your family, people at your church. When you start doing it very small, you can kind of turn that into that snowball effect where you're starting to make more and more sacrifices, and it becomes again habitual, so that you're able to do it much more easily. And so I think that's kind of the gist of creating it. In a small, like making kind of a daily thing and small, like can you do small sacrifices and really kind of pull yourself out of that comfort zone, whether it be again like for your personal well-being, but also for the well-being of your spouse, your kids, even for those around you. Like there's certain times where how can you think of others, like again, like someone at a gas station, like giving them like smiling a little bit extra. Like sometimes like you're in a rush, but like how can you take yourself out of your own head and think of like what others are going through and kind of again small little things that I think that you can do in order to make sacrifices that I think again can help to not only better you and yourself, but also help kind of push more people towards the kingdom.
Yeah, I agree. So with that, kind of how we were talking earlier about some of the smaller things like the lawnmower or the wheels or, whatever, these tiny sacrifices that we make, there's also big sacrifices that Noah and I each personally have made, even if we didn't want to, in the moment we didn't want to, but we made these sacrifices for our marriage, for our children, for ourselves, and have absolutely no regrets. We've been able to see so much fruit from some of these sacrifices that we've both made. And just really, I guess I'm just really excited to share some of that with you guys because I'm sure a lot of you guys have similar things as well.
One I think too, sorry, to go back to the lawnmower thing, I don't think we actually really kind of tied the loop on that, but it was, yes, using the old rusty lawnmower, we could do a brand new one, but why? Like,
Oh yeah,
it
why?
might cost, it might cost $500-600 to buy a brand new lawnmower, that's a push mower, or a couple $1,000 to buy a brand new mower, but like, we think it's more important now to like build up, other aspects of the homestead first and foremost, but also like having kids as an example. Like having a couple kids is not a low cost endeavor as much like people say all the time. Like it's totally a blessing. But that said, there's other like family expenses that now are taking precedent to having a like a really nice brand new lawnmower. And so that's a sacrifice. We're like, hey, it does take me a little bit longer to mow the lawn. Yeah, but also like that's something that we're willing to do, or I'm willing to do, but also Mary when she mows the lawn too. Instead of not having any kids or like growing the homestead in a certain way. So like that's kind of to answer to make that like it may not have made as much sense early on, but like that there's reasons, like there's things that like it could be a little bit hard or a little bit easier, make our lives a little bit easier if we did certain things, but also then we won't be able to do other things that we think are that much more important.
Right. Yeah.
And that kind of leads into what Mary's saying.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're gonna do. I like that. So we kind of thought like reflected each individually, what are some of those major sacrifices that we've made that benefit our family and relate to our family. So that's kind of what we're gonna go into. Do you want to talk about yours first?
Um
Or do you want me to go first? I don't really care.
no, we'll leave mine for the finale.
Okay.
I think we'll go yours first.
That sounds good. That sounds great. I like
also
that.
haven't thought of mine yet.
So, so some of my stories, so some of the things that I would think about, so Noah and I think we mentioned it in our very first episode, and as some of you know us, like majority of you, like you probably know this, we were long distance. We met online. We were one of the success stories of Catholic Match. It was real. We met when I was in college, and I was going to school in Wisconsin at the time. He was working in Connecticut, and I was like, I'm not ever going to live in North Carolina, or not North Carolina. I'm never going to live in Connecticut, never going to do long distance, whatever. Well, lo and behold, 4 months after dating, we got engaged. 14 months after getting engaged, we get married. And I ended up moving to Connecticut it just was the right thing. I was always raised as, you go where your husband is. And that's not a weird, like, oh, please submit to your husband. Darling, please be lo and behold. No, like literally, I mean, my parents raised me in a very traditional sense, but the reason why we did that was because, or like we moved to Connecticut was, well, I was a fresh college graduate making like $18 an hour and he had the real job. He'd been in the field for way longer than I had been. So it just made financial sense. So I left my family, my comfort behind. My parents and I are very, very close. My sister and my siblings and I are pretty close. And so leaving my family in the Midwest, all my extended family, my mom and dad, everything that I knew and I loved, to move to Connecticut, a place that I had no friends. All I knew was his family and a couple of his, I kind of knew some of his extended family. I had no job, nothing. That was very hard for me. But also I knew, okay, yeah, that's hard for me, but I want to be where Noah is. I want to build a life with Noah, whether that's in Connecticut or Iowa or like, Europe. I don't care where, I mean, Europe would be sweet, but you know what I mean? Like I wanted to go wherever Noah was. And that doesn't mean that there was times where it wasn't difficult or where it wasn't difficult. I mean, there would be probably for the first 2 years, every time we'd see my parents, we'd either leave Iowa or they would leave Connecticut. I would cry every single time. And I almost felt like a little kid again, like, no, take me with you. Take me with you. Not like in a sense that I was trapped, but in a sense that I'm like, I just want my comfort because I didn't have friends in Connecticut. I didn't have that. So that was one thing specifically. But, looking forward now, we're 6.5, almost 7 years, 6.5 years into marriage. Absolutely no regrets, obviously. It was such an adventure for a young single gal, because I guess technically I moved there just before we got married. And it would just absolutely no regrets. We've had such amazing experiences together, and I'm so grateful that we ended up in New England when we did. It was totally worth every little bit. A couple other things. The other thing, too, that actually kind of going along with moving to Connecticut was being a homemaker and being a stay-at-home mom. Not saying that was a sacrifice for me because all I ever wanted since I was a little girl was to be a stay-at-home mom and have a bunch of babies. It's all I ever wanted. But there's something hard about giving up a life. When I went to college, I got a degree to get a job. Society is saying, get a job, like women should work and da-da-da, which, yeah, if you want to work, all power to you. If you want to be home, all power to you. I don't really care what you do at the end of the day, as long as you feel confident in that. But I think for me, I was feeling so pulled of not bringing in any income. When we finally decided for me to quit my jobs, Ava, our second, was an infant, like brand new baby. We had just moved to North Carolina. And that was the first time I was making $0. And it was a hard transition for me. I was very uncomfortable. I felt like I wasn't doing enough as a wife to help bring in the income. I felt like, oh, but it's all on your shoulders now. Well, that's all he's wanted. He's like, well, yeah, it's on my shoulders. I'm the provider. I'm the husband. Like, that's my job. But I was having doubts about that. I didn't want to make him feel like I was letting him down. I was feeling like, oh, my degree was a waste. Like all these things was a waste and blah, blah, blah. So that was really hard as well. And it probably took me until I got pregnant with our third. That was probably the first time that I was really like, yeah, no, this is a good choice. Like, I'm so grateful that I don't bring an income in. I'm so grateful that I'm not the financial provider of the family, but I can provide in other ways that he can't provide in because he's the husband, I'm the wife. Like I really learned and I really honed in on the fact that the two, men and women, are different. Men cannot do all things women can do. Women cannot do all things men can do. I don't care what people say. I don't care what all like the feminists say. It is a fact. We are not built for what each other is meant to do in some areas. And so again, same thing, like giving up the income, right? And giving up that, I guess, that desire to make money and that desire to help out financially. Totally, I saw the fruits of that. I saw the fruits of, he can come home to a stress-free environment when the kids aren't going crazy, right? When he knows that I've got it handled at home with the kids, whether make sure I got kids to the appointment. Well, then on the flip side of that, I can make sure I can go to the grocery store because of the work that he does for us. I can make sure that I can pay for the kids' doctor's appointments because of him and what he does for us. So I think those two specifically, between moving to Connecticut and leaving my family and starting that life, as well as just kind of giving up that need for an income or need for to be a financial provider, the fruits of both those were so apparent, and I have absolutely no regrets. I would never go back and change a thing. So yeah, I mean, I think those are two things that a lot of women, young women struggle with. So I'm just one of the hundreds of thousands of millions of whatever women, but hundreds of thousands of millions of women. That's what I said. Hundreds of thousands of millions of women a lot of women that struggle with that.
Disclaimer: we are not very articulate people.
We are not. No. So yeah, that would be my biggest thing. Is those are my two things specifically.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think too, like men who are married, I think kind of looking at your wife's sacrifices, I think it's really important to see like the sacrifices that they do make. Like I think looking at today's day and age, I feel like a lot of people tend to try to put value on things, and so with that, when people aren't bringing like a financial like benefit to the table, I feel like a lot of people, again, in today's day and age, tend to discount that. But again, like the times when I was watching all the kids with neurovirus, like it was like the worst 5 days of my entire life, and that's like
Doesn't mean you don't love them.
yeah, no,
It's
and
hard.
yeah, just very
It's
difficult.
hard.
And it
It's
obviously
hard.
too, it's kind of turned up a little bit, like when kids, like again, like men have certain things that like the maternal instinct is not there. Love them to death, would do anything for them, but I think there's a really good quote I heard from someone a while ago is like when people say like they want to be like the knight in shining armor, like that they mean that quite literally. Like I don't want to change an extra dirty diaper. I want to actually go slay a dragon. That's much more what I'd rather do when I want
Whereas
to do
me,
that.
I don't mind changing the diaper, but you will not catch me dead slaying a dang dragon. That's not my thing. That's why I have him.
And by dragon she means pumping up car tires. But
That's
anyway,
100% true.
so I just wanted to kind of put that into perspective too. Like I think that many people tend to not really kind of value the what kind of the wives and stuff can bring to the table in that sense. But again, I think it is again what they think. I'm gonna do this
You're
the rest
good.
of the time. It is so important, and I don't want people, and I try. That's kind of a reminder for myself every day too. Is like it's so valuable, and then the times that you do have to kind of switch roles a little bit. And again, that goes back to the whole like little sacrifices. Like you see like how big of a sacrifice that your wife is making by doing that all day every day. Like I come home and I do it for a couple minutes and I'm like, this sometimes kind of sucks just because kids are screaming, they're trying to like have they're having like an emotional breakdown. And then I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. And I can't really communicate with them the same way I would at someone at work. But yeah, so I think I just want to kind of call that out. But on my end, there's kind of a professional and personal sacrifice that I wanted to kind of call out that I feel like some people might kind of find a likeness in. But I think one of the things would be on the professional end of things. So, I think my life goal when I was like, I think it was like 9 or 10, I'm like, I want to be a CEO. And so I always wanted to be like, I always had a very entrepreneurial mindset. I have business plans up the wazoo since I was like 8, 9, 10. I was like coming up with business plans. And so I always wanted to be a CEO, always wanted to run my own business, always wanted to be successful in that sense. And really kind of put that up on a pedestal. So worked really hard. Like that's part of the reason why I think I did as well as I did when I went through college and all that is I was kind of always building up entrepreneurship. I think it was 18 or 19 when I started my first company outside the box design. And that I think was kind of on a really, really good trajectory. But then when Mary came into the picture, it was all kind of about, again, what is the most important. So I think there's a lot of business people out there who, like entrepreneurs as well, who are saying, okay, you need to put in 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, whatever else. And like, I don't think there's anything wrong with hard work. I think hard work is extremely important. And not saying discounting that at all, but also at the end of the day, what is the most important? So there's been a couple kind of experiences in my life, whether it be for the entrepreneurial side or just kind of the 9 to 5 side of what is truly the most important. And so one of the biggest sacrifices that I feel like I've had to make when it comes to the professional life is putting aside kind of that next advancement, that next kind of growth in business, not having a multi-million-dollar business because I'm not able to go travel and meet with clients all the time, and I'm not able to work kind of a consecutive 12-hour day in some cases, or not able to save money that I would have made in the business to reinvest in the business on certain areas because, again, of kids, wife, family, the whole 9 yards. But again, I think the fruits of that are extremely apparent. So at the end of the day, I think it's all about vocation. So is your vocation to be a successful multimillionaire, or is your vocation to become a husband and father? And again, what is most important? And do you need to kind of put some things aside in order to serve that vocation better? So I think if you are working to becoming the best husband, father ever, and at the same time you happen to hit that like perfect, like buku buck success, like all the power to you. And again, not saying that you don't need to work hard kind of in kind of moving forward, but also there's all these stories of people like, oh, I wish I didn't miss my son's first baseball game because I was working at the office late or whatever else. Like, what are things that you're missing out on? Like, are you not able to help like lead family prayer time? Are you missing church on Sunday? Are you missing like whatever else because you're putting the personal or the professional career and your ambitions way ahead of where it should be. And so that's something that I've decided is kind of a worthwhile sacrifice, is not spending as much time working. Like, don't get me wrong, I still work a lot, probably again more than I probably should.
You definitely do. Yeah.
But that said, there's times that I could have been working more and I wanted to work more. And not, again, back in my mind, it's all about like, okay, it's for the family and all that. But that said too, like, what's more important? Like, is that going to actually like help the family right now and help them also in the long term, like getting to heaven? Is that going to help me and Mary get to heaven? And so that's been kind of a big sacrifice, is like putting things like growing a business on the back burner. It's not the most important thing. It's if success and kind of supplemental success comes from that, great. But if not the biggest and most important thing in the world. So I think that's kind of been the biggest thing on a professional end. And then on a personal end too, I think there's other things that like you can give up, like whether it be like the just kind of eating better, like obviously like everyone wants to be healthy and fit and whatnot, but also like definitely a kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like an addictive personality where like obviously like if I get home and I want to eat a bag of chips, like I'll eat the entire bag of chips. Or Sour Patch Kids, I got addicted to Sour Patch Kids at one point. So like, but again, like going back to little sacrifices, like, okay, is that what's good for me now? Or is that gonna help me in the long term? For both the family, but also for me personally. But then I think the biggest thing has been me and alcohol. So I think at the end of the day, there's like not dishing on alcohol in and of itself, because like I'm huge into beer brewing. Like that was something that I really, really enjoyed. Like I love the science of beer brewing and also just a good craft beer. But that said, I think there's certain things that, again, is this thing bringing me closer to heaven, and is this affecting like my relationships on earth? I think those are the two things that you kind of have to kind of measure everything that you do in your day-to-day life. And so I kind of looked at both those things, like with alcohol as an example. Like, is it fun? Yes. Do I enjoy it? Yes. Could it be a good kind of righteous thing if you kind of do it in the right context? Yes. But in the grand scheme of things, is this going to help me get to heaven tomorrow? If like I were to die tomorrow? Probably not. Is if I kind of abuse it or use it wrongly, is it going to help my family? No. Is it going to slow me down, make me feel more sluggish the next day, and actually not help me not work as hard for my family? Probably. So I think that's another thing that I've tried to sacrifice, and that's kind of just a personal thing. Where is it something that I've really enjoyed? Not just like drinking alcohol, because like who doesn't like that, but also like the things like brewing and all that kind of stuff too. Like that was something that was a really big hobby of mine. But again, is that going to help my family in the long term? And I really determined that the answer was no. And it's not just for their sake, but also just for my sake and the sake of kind of getting them further and closer to heaven. Taking something that is fun and good and not necessarily a bad thing kind of on its face, but also like taking a closer look at it and saying, okay, is this something that, again, is going to get me and my family to heaven? And if it's not, I think it's something that it's worth like turning aside. Where again, if I didn't have a family, if I didn't have kind of the heavenly aspirations, I don't think it's like I probably would not have looked at it the same way. But it's about making those bigger sacrifices, again, that it's something that I've, again, been pretty strict on, but like where it's maybe some kind of awkward in some social situations or whatever else. But that said, like, is that feeling awkward at a social situation more important, or is getting my whole family to heaven, keeping them happy, healthy, and safe more important? And kind of weighing that. And I think that's a pretty easy choice when you look at it in that frame of reference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, I agree. I think the biggest thing to just remember is that the world, and I know I mentioned it at the very beginning of this podcast, but our home here on earth is not our home, right? Where everything that we're doing should always be aimed towards heaven, right? Whether it's making those small sacrifices, like we mentioned, making some of those bigger, more uncomfortable sacrifices that Noah and I just talked about. If you look at it in the sense of, as a married couple or with a family, every choice that you make down to what time you wake up in the morning, how is that going to affect your spouse, your children, your family? And how's it going to get you and your kids to heaven? That's the biggest number one goal with all of this.
And I think too, it's like there's this whole idea of in the world, not of it. and it's how you don't need to like give everything up. I think that's the big thing. Like you don't have to like be a hermit, even though secretly I would love to do that. But that said, you don't need to give everything up. I think it's how can you turn like small worldly no's into a heavenly yes? So like it's kind of okay. Again, you're comparing it against two things. Okay, is this worldly thing? Is this the long term or short term thing? Is it gonna kind of help me and my family in the long term, not just in like this world, but also in the future? Like again, lawnmower was the great example, but like, are there little things like, do I need to buy the brand new car or can I buy a used car? Do I need to like completely refurbish my house or can I get the used couch on Facebook Marketplace? Like stuff like that, where like again, it's not even just from like a financial perspective, but also just in general. Like, how can you make some choices like that where you're kind of weighing what's going to be more beneficial, even if it is a sacrifice for your family, their mental and physical well being, but also I think again, most importantly, kind of their heavenly and spiritual well being.
And I think too, kind of like what Noah was just saying, like you don't have to give up everything. Believe it or not, God wants you to live a joyful life, right? Oh, like he wants you to live a joyful life. He wants us to be joyful. He wants us to have things that make us feel loved and happy, and whole in who he made us to be. And I think, in these moments, like, something that we love, again, going back to my Great Value ice cream, my peanut butter cup. I love that stuff, right? But like, if I eat that, use this as an example, if I eat that every single day, like an exuberant amount of it, well, not only is that, what is it called? Being gluttonous, but also if I eat that, I'm probably going to feel ucky. I'm probably going to gain some weight. I don't want to gain it. But then I'm going to feel awful. Then I'm not going to be joyful and fulfilled. And I'm going to feel like self-conscious because of the action that I made. Sure, in the moment it was wonderful, but like, in a month or two from now, I'm not going to feel as joyful or great about that decision. And I think that's, some of those other things, like how Noah was talking about like his journey with like alcohol. Like I'm not going to go into it super much because it's kind of your story, but yeah, like we loved going on brew tours. Like that's what we did in Connecticut. We went on brew tours probably every couple weeks with our friends. Like it was fun and we had such a good time with that. And it was hard. Like once like Noah made that decision to give it up, like it was hard even for me. There's times now that I'd love a glass of wine, but I'm like, no, I'm your partner in this. We are doing this together. That one moment, that one glass of wine that I want, that one IPA that you want, sure, in the moment it's going to feel great, but what we've seen what road it leads to for both of us. And it's not, so that little bit of sacrifice in the moment, like we have both seen the fruits and the joy of giving something up that we both enjoyed and that we really loved. And now I would say we're thriving in a gazillion ways. And it's not even just that, but that's kind of a bigger example of like something that could give us joy in the moment, right? And give it up and poo where you can't have it. But looking forward a month, 2 years down the line, like it's totally worth every single little bit of all of those big sacrifices, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think so. Total side note, like diversion. Ironically, one of my favorite beers was called Road to Ruin. So probably should have been a little. That's kind of ironic, funny.
No way.
That was the Two Roads.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, yeah,
double
Two Roads, but Road to Ruin. Isn't God funny? He's a sneaky little guy. He is a sneaky little guy.
But I think going back to even the things in like having joy, like the whole absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like thing that I still do enjoy is like a cigar. But like if you were to do it every day, that's one thing. But like I really enjoy the times that like I'm hanging out with a bunch of guys who have a cigar around the campfire. Like I think the absence makes it like that much more special. So similar to like us going up to Connecticut, it's so much more special, and you just get so much more out of it when you do something more rarely. So similarly with ice cream, cigars, whatever the whole thing is, like I think that's another thing too, is that kind of holding yourself back and being a little bit more disciplined, I think is really important too, where you're able to be a little bit more, like be able to enjoy that a little bit more once you actually do like participate in that. So I think that's the other thing to think about too, when kind of running through that kind of calculus or the equation of, is this good for me, my family, long-term, short-term, for heaven, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And I think the last thing to think about too is, when you're trying to make a decision, big or small, put a boundary up for you and something, or you and somebody, or whatever the situation might be. You just have to remember, like if this is a no, this worldly no, chances are it will be a kingdom yes. Anytime you say no, if it's a big situation that could affect others, if you say no, even if it makes you uncomfortable and you don't like it, that's going to be a kingdom yes. That's just one quick way to know that you're serving the Lord and you're serving those around you who are relying on you.
So I think kind of really thank you all for listening to this, but I think continue to look in your daily lives, like where are places, like even if it's a small sacrifice, like is there something where like even like buying like a coffee, like do you buy a slightly cheaper coffee and you save that dollar to do something more meaningful with, but like really look in your lives and see like how can it be a sacrifice not only for kind of your own temporal welfare and temporal good, but like for your heavenly good as well. So I think that's something that I'd encourage you, or we'd encourage you to continue to kind of look at in your daily life, but also kind of look at those around you. Who's making a sacrifice for you, or is making sacrifices around you, and how can you help them? So I think kind of looking like everyone's kind of working together with this. Everyone's working to get to the heaven, get to heaven. How do you kind of support each other in order to make that slightly easier for everybody?
Right. Agreed. Love it.
All
Love it. Love it.
All right. As you can see, I drink some Diet Coke, but I'm really overtired today. So hopefully I didn't put you all to sleep. But
Yeah.
no, I think that's it for this time.
That's it. So episode 4 will be out when it's out.
Don't
It could be a week. It could be a month. It could be a year. It won't be a year.
don't pressure us.
Don't pressure all of our tens of thousands of followers. Stop it. It's embarrassing. Yeah, no, we'll be back. We'll be back eventually. But by the time this time comes out, or this one comes out, I don't know. By the time this one comes out, it'll be out. And we'll have the next one up and ready to rock and roll soon. So.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Make sure to check out the website, fidelisterrafarm.com. Check us out on YouTube if you're listening to the audio. If you want to see the video, you will see all sorts of shenanigans happening. Make sure to subscribe. It would be awesome if you guys could like, comment, or rate each of these podcasts wherever you're listening to it. That just helps get a little bit more exposure. And if you have questions, thoughts, comments, whatever else, definitely reach out on the website. Love to hear it. Love to kind of bring some of that into the podcast as well. If you have ideas, like if you're like, Mary, that whole harvest and drought thing really sucks, go ahead and tell us.
Don't say that though, because I want that. But if you say that, we'll do what the people want. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Like Noah said, share with everybody, comment, all the good things, and we will see you guys next time.
See you guys.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us today. You can follow along or subscribe at fidelisterrafarm.com.